Good morning. Wow, we have a giant week ahead. Right now, we are in the middle of so much breaking news. It is difficult to decide what to lead with first. However, what I want to tell you, which I think you'll be very interested in, is that new documents released by the Department of Justice, reveal that the FBI interviewed an inmate at the prison where Jeff Epstein died, right? And in this interview, and we see the handwritten notes, we have someone in the same facility, not just MDC, but the same wing or area who overheard, and here is the headline in the Miami Herald, overheard prison guards talking about covering up Jeff Epstein's death. Okay. And I have for you, and it's worse than you think, or it's maybe what you expected, or maybe I should put on my tinfoil hat, right? Because they are putting together, we have this release from the Department of Justice and separately a Wall Street Journal article that suggests that one of the guards, and I'm Miss Noel, she is referred to, that one of the guards had been getting payments that were marked as suspicious into her bank account months and weeks before Jeff Epstein's death. And what here I'm showing you on the screen is a screenshot of one of the pages. There are 5 pages of handwritten notes. Now, this was an interview with an inmate. It was part of what's called a proffer. He was sitting down with his lawyer and probably the prosecutors saying, listen, can we make a deal? Because you'll never guess what I've heard. Now, I'm going to read to you because it might be difficult for you to see this, but here is what this says. It says, the night Epstein died, I'm going to actually blow this up so you can see it better. Night Epstein died, fed dinner by Noel and other officer. Never got trays taken out. She came by around 10 to do the count, asked for lights off and then someone asked for lights off and they did it. That's blacked out. It's probably another inmate. Around 12, everyone was kicking their door, yelling, asking for lights to be turned off. So obviously they want lights off in the hallway so they can sleep. A new officer comes in. She told him not to do rounds. Another said that bitch is lazy. She don't want to work. And then you have this thing about whether these rounds were supposed to be happening regularly, right? I've got another shot of this. I'm so sorry. That wasn't the only one. We've got key screenshots here. Let me grab this one for you. Okay. So this is on page 1. You can see this guy being interviewed, but let me get you the one I want to share with you. Okay. So I didn't pull that one up. Let me pull up this one that I really want to share with you that shows you the cover-up or the alleged cover-up happening right there. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm having a tech difficulty. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this one is the one where we have this inmate suggesting that Jeff Epstein was murdered and that there was a cover-up afoot. Now, that he was either murdered or that it was someone's fault that he had died. So let's look at this. Okay, so, okay, this is the one, and I know it may be hard for you to read this. Let me just try to make it bigger here. But here we go. It says, and actually, I'm just gonna go back here, and it's around the same size. Here's what we're seeing on page 4 of 5. It says, a new officer comes in at 12. She turns the fan on, or he did, and it blocked out noise. Dozed off. So this is the inmate. Dozed off, woke up, back and forth, food cart pushed in. Then here, breathe. So someone was shouting that in quotes. Other officer comes in. When they were walking through with breakfast, some person served food and dudes said, "You killed that dude." She said, quote, "If he is dead, we're going to cover it up and he's going to have an alibi, my officer," end quote. Then this is what the inmate also said. The whole tier, that means the sort of prison block, whole tier heard that that somebody initiated this conversation, then found out on news that J.E., Jeff Epstein, died. Officers kept saying, "I didn't kill him." When people came through, inmates said, "Miss Noel killed Jeffrey." You heard that. Miss Noel killed Jeffrey. And then it says, Lieutenant somebody never rubbed somebody wrong. She does rounds, but she something about the walk, goes to somewhere, then leaves. And then he goes on to say that after Epstein dies and people start doing the rounds. So this is the key thing. They're saying Miss Noel killed Epstein. Now you might be wondering, if you're not following this entirely as closely as some of us are, who Ms. Noel is, right? Who is she? And I've got this image now that I want to pull down for you. So actually, who is this Ms. Noel? Well, she was one of the prison guards who was actually charged at one point. Her name is Tova Noel. She was one of the prison guards who had been charged for lying about covering up the records of when they were not going on rounds when Epstein died, right? And this is, again, he heard breathe, breathe. This is officer shouting at 6:30 a.m. Then the inmate heard, "Dudes, you killed that dude." And a female guard replied, "If he is dead, we're going to cover it up and he's going to have an alibi, my officers." This is what he heard in this prison wing. And of course, they heard Ms. Noel killed Jeffrey. Now, this is the female guard he's talking about is Tova Noel. Again, she's one of the officers who were charged a long time ago for falsifying the reports to make it look like they had made their rounds every half hour, and when they hadn't. So the charges against her and this other guy, Michael Thomas, had been dropped. They both were fired. Now, this is particularly concerning because I said it was the Wall Street Journal, but I think it was actually the New York Post. And they reported, and I'm going to share this screen with you, the New York Post reported that this Tova Noel had received all of these suspicious payments, right? So yeah, this is all kind of coming out here. Not only, and here you go, not only had she, I think I want to make this, okay, I can't make that go away, but not only had she gotten the suspicious payments, my friends, but in addition, before Epstein died, she had before his body was found, Noel Googled, quote, latest on Epstein in jail. She Googled that at 5:42 a.m. Then 5:52, this was less than 40 minutes before Michael Thomas, her colleague, found Jeffrey Epstein dead in his cell. So this was an FBI record of her internet search. Earlier the shift, instead of keeping an eye on the prisoners, she was shopping online and sleeping, right? So this isn't great. And let me tell you about the follow the money piece, right? She had made a cash deposit of $5,000 just before his death. Now, you put all these things together. I don't know, guys. I don't know, when they say you killed him, if that meant because they didn't watch him. I don't know. There's reporting that there was extra linens in his cell. There's a lot of mysterious information about his death or suicide. And regardless of whether it was murder or suicide, they were not keeping an eye on him. Now, of course, there is even more important breaking news when it comes to Epstein. And then we're going to move over to the disastrous war we are waging in Iran. Okay, the other giant bit of breaking news relates to what we were talking about at the end of last week. The woman who credibly accused Donald Trump and Jeff Epstein of sexual assault when she was between the ages of 13 and 15 years old. Remember that it was last week that it was on, I think it was on Thursday evening or afternoon, that the FBI suddenly released some of the missing pages that contained the 302s, the typed up FBI interviews with this woman. Now, remember, there were 4 FBI interviews and only one of them had been released. And no one would have noticed this if it hadn't been for Roger Solenberger, the independent journalist, and later NPR and MSNBC kind of putting two and two together to realize there were missing documents and that this woman was very credible, right? This person was so credible that last summer in a slide presentation created by the Department of Justice on the page that said, basically was identifying high level or well-known powerful individuals who were accused in the Epstein files. On that list, the first bullet point was a brief description of this woman's allegations of what Donald Trump had done to her when she was, again, between 13 and 15 years old. And just so you remember, and I'm sorry that I have to say this, that he tried to force her head down to make her perform oral sex on him. She bit his penis, yes. And then he apparently, according to her, punched her in the head and kicked her out. Okay, so this is the allegation against Trump. The one against Epstein that she had made separately, that we find out she is the same person, was that Epstein had recruited her when he was visiting Hilton Head, South Carolina, when she was around that age. And then he abused her and trafficked her to men in either New York or New Jersey. That is how she met Donald Trump. Well, on Thursday, these 302s, heavily redacted, but still enough information, confirm what we thought her allegations were. The news today is that over the weekend, and I'm sharing with you something from a South Carolina newspaper here. Over the weekend, both the South Carolina newspaper and the Miami Herald have gone ahead and corroborated the pieces of her story about her mother, about her. There are things in here, and I'm going to pull this shot away, that that some people were doubting were true. So let me just give you the facts that have been corroborated. In her story, she said that an associate of Donald Trump, who was from Ohio, no, it's not Les Wexner, associate of Donald Trump who was from Ohio, who had dated her mother, who owned some real estate in this resort area, Hilton Head, South Carolina. So they confirmed that, yes, this man, the name she gave, was an associate of Donald Trump. The next thing they confirmed is that her mother, yes, did own real estate and was a real estate broker there. The other thing they confirmed, because she said that what happened is Epstein had naked and other compromising photos of her when she was a child. Like, instead of going to the police, what her mother was faced with Epstein blackmailing her, extorting her. And so according to, this is what she said, the woman said that, again, when she was a teenager, when she's between 13 and 15, Epstein was demanding money from her. And this friend of Epstein that her mother was dating, this other guy, taught her how to embezzle money from the real estate business so she could pay off Epstein, demands he was making. And this is in the mid-'80s that we're talking about. So remember I told you last week, some reporters were saying, well, we can't, it was like NPR at the time, we can't corroborate that. Well, guess what? This newspaper in South Carolina, this is what I'm showing you right here. This is the Post and Courier. The Post and Courier were able to go through and corroborate so much of these allegations. And I encourage you to find that article. I was able to download it. And now I did not, the first time you look at it, you don't hit a paywall. Okay, guys? So in this article, and this is key, the headline here is Fuzzy Memories and Hard Facts. A South Carolina accuser's claims against Epstein and Trump examined. This is from yesterday. An article again from the Post and Courier, a South Carolina newspaper. The authors are Mitchell Black and Marilyn Thompson, again from yesterday. And this is what the lead is. A woman who claims she was abused as a minor by both Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump has given the FBI vivid accounts that include aspects of her life corroborated by the Post and Courier through public records. Now, remember, the White House claimed that there was zero credible evidence that her account was true, and yet the Post and Courier has gone through public records and confirmed so much of what she has alleged, right? And so let me just tell you, the victim said that Epstein had business contacts in Hilton Head and was living there temporarily on the island. And one of these associates, she said, was a businessman from Ohio, who had taken over this real estate company and hired her mother to be a broker. That's how they met. Now, this guy commuted from Cincinnati to the area, is what the victim, now she's an adult, said. So public records show the mother owned a property in Hilton Head, that she'd bought it in 1981. It was near one of the most popular beaches. The local records also show that the company run by the Cincinnati associate of Trump's, that she was marketing long-term vacation rentals there. Okay. And the victim said that her mom had rented one to Jeff Epstein. This would make sense because the places she was renting out included a seaside cabin, fully furnished at the local Four Seasons resort. It had a jacuzzi, tennis, and handball courts. I mean, this was high-end luxury accommodations. Okay. Remember that this woman said that when she was 13 years old, her mother was advertising in a flyer to get her babysitting gigs. And that is how Epstein had summoned her. Okay. Now, of course, there's not public records of that flyer. However, the man from Ohio that she described, in her memory, when she met with the FBI in 2019, 4 times, first before when Epstein was arrested, so before his death, and then 3 times after into October of 2019. She remembered that he was a man with gray hair and big ears, and she said that he was affiliated with some Cincinnati-based college. And the Post and Courier looked at the name, because the name is in the records, and confirmed that this man was a board member, had been a board member of a for-profit school. Now, also, she had claimed in this account to the FBI that Epstein was giving drugs to her and other young girls. And the Post and Courier confirms that local newspapers said that there was a new problem with drug use among young people hanging out on the beaches. There's something else she claimed about a Rick James concert in Savannah she'd gone to, and apparently the Post and Courier confirmed that he was performing quite a bit at that time. Now, the biggest thing that I think shows huge corroboration is this. You know how she said that her mother had embezzled from a real estate firm in order to pay off Jeff Epstein? Well, you would think if that were true, and that she went to jail for that. If you think that were true, then there would be some records of that. Now, let's look at what corroborated this. Okay. So at this time, the Post and Courier says if this is around 1981, Epstein had just been fired or pushed out of Bear Stearns because he was involved in this insider trading fraud allegation. I shouldn't say insider trading. I said that he had been caught actually, and it was kind of it was some scandal, right? Some fraud involving customers there. And at the time, he then started a new company where he was helping advise clients on issues like corporate embezzlement of all things. Okay. So let's just be clear. In 1985, the company she worked for, the mother, in 85, the South Carolina Real Estate Commission froze her business escrow account and temporarily suspended her license. This is her mother. In addition, documents show that the mother's boss at the real estate firm sought criminal charges against her, that she was accused of stealing $22,000 from the real estate company. Months later, the victim's mother was charged with 6 felony counts for writing bad checks. So this is all right in the records. Now, initially, she pled guilty to all the charges. She was put on probation and told to make restitution payments of $150 until she paid off the debt. But she did not pay off the debt. So what happened after that, right? And this is in the records that I believe she was. I believe that she ended up. Yes, state officials confirmed that the mother was incarcerated in a state prison near South Carolina. All of this is adding up, right? And later, the mother was accused of breaking into her home. I mean, she had a lot here going on. Now, I do want to say, I'm just going to kind of stop there. Did you ever, for a minute, doubt this woman? They were trying to say she was crazy. She's troubled. She's making this up. And let me tell you, she has had a troubled life after this, right? She's out in the Pacific Northwest. She has her own child. But what's so important in her story that you should remember, or I don't know if you knew, from the records that came out on Thursday, she said that Epstein's people kept tabs on her, that she got threatening phone calls, and so did her mother before her mother died. She mentioned the name of one of these people with threatening phone calls, maybe being Keith or Kevin. Do you remember that Keith Schiller was Donald Trump's longtime bodyguard? Now, he was not his bodyguard back in the 80s, but to the extent these calls continued, could have been him. I don't know. This is explosive news. And this obviously should be on the front page everywhere. But of course, there's even crazier shit going down. Okay? We are in the midst of a war of choice. It is a disaster. Donald Trump has tried to say that this war was for regime change. And then it was to liberate the Iranian people from oppression. And then maybe it was to stop Iran from ever creating a nuclear weapon, right? And where we are is the new leader of Iran, who has been named, is the son of the man that was killed by the U.S. and Israel, right? So Iran has now named Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was just killed by the U.S. in Israeli airstrikes. Apparently, he not only was his father killed, but I think maybe his wife and some of his children. He is now the leader of Iran. Good job, Donald Trump. On top of that, I'm sure you have probably seen oil is above $100 a barrel. This was just last night. Donald Trump is freaking out because he did not anticipate that, because he's a fucking idiot. And of course, the Strait of Hormuz, where not just oil, but other goods are transported, is now, as you can see from this chart, virtually shut down. Of course, the Dow is also tanking. Now, let me just say, these incredibly audacious, disgusting, depraved warmongers have no interest in letting up. Donald Trump literally said there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. What are we even doing here? We have Donald Trump playing golf, holding a press conference to talk about college athletics. And this shit isn't working for him anymore. I'm going to show you this clip. He's at this press conference trying to talk about college sports in the midst of this war waging, this disaster at home where we still have ICE and the Border Patrol killing Americans, rounding up people who should be here, just awful. And of course, credible allegations that he sexually assaulted a child. Okay, all this is happening, and he decides to have a press conference about college sports, which of course is to change the subject. And it's going so badly that even Steve Doocy of Fox News is on to his bullshit. Let me play this for you.
President Trump, it sounds like the Russians are helping Iran target and attack Americans now.
That's an easy problem compared to what we're doing here. I mean, but can I be honest? It's just, I have a lot of respect for you. You've always been very nice to me. What a stupid question that is to be asking at this time. We're talking about something else. Can we keep this maybe a little bit? Go ahead, please.
What a stupid question to be asking at this time. Like, dude, he's saying to Steve Doocy, I'm obviously trying to change the subject. So fuck you if you want to talk about thousands of people in Iran who have died. Fuck you if you want to talk about anything other than me changing the subject. And I just want to be clear, you know how upset I have been from day one about the U.S., and it turns out it's most likely not Israel. It is the U.S., which we've thought from the beginning. On the first day of the attack in Iran, bombed an elementary school where girls were in session. It was a Saturday. That is a school day. And 175 people were killed. I think at least 160 of them were young girls. We have a photo now. These are not numbers. These are people with names. This is, if you can see this, two little girls in their sneakers and their green uniforms and white hijabs at school. Now, the New York Times and others have confirmed that the United States did this. And I want you to hear what Donald Trump said, because I'm sure you would have expected this from him, but it's disgusting. Let's play it.
The sad part of war. It's the bad part of war.
Mr. President, did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Did you hear that? He said it was done by Iran, and they turned to Hegseth to say, is that true? And of course, he can't contradict Donald Trump. So he said, we're certainly investigating. And listen carefully.
We're certainly investigating.
Still investigating.
But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done. We think it was done by Iran.
What pigs? We think it was done by Iran. Just like he thinks he won the election. This guy is a malignant narcissist liar, right? Now, I'm going to have something that cheers you up. I don't know how, but maybe not. Here's Lindsey Graham, deranged warmonger. And these are the people who are whispering in Donald Trump's ear. We're hearing that he went to Israel and met with, I don't know if it was a Netanyahu or others in the government. He is one of the cheerleaders for this war. Let's listen to this.
We're going to win. Israel and the United States, you just wait to see what comes in the next 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks meaning what?
We're going to blow the hell out of these people. This regime is in a death
we are going to blow the hell out of these people. These are murderers. I mean, I'm going to play you the rest of it. There's more.
Now it is going to be on its knees. It's going to fall. And when it falls, we're going to have peace like no other time. We're going to have prosperity unlike anyone could ever imagine. Peace brings prosperity. You can't do it by talking. The Democrats criticize this opportunity.
You can't get peace by talking, he says. I guess you can only get peace by murdering people. I mean, this is insane. Okay. And we are now actually heading into an oil crisis of the type from the 1970s. And we, of course, have this giant AI bubble. But the good news is we all have each other. And those of us who are not top tier billionaires or 100 millionaires don't have that far to fall. We need to take care of each other as we go through this. And I've got 2 bits of other news, legal news. So first, Kari Lake is sunk. This is the former newscaster and politician who we can remember well from vacuuming a red carpet because it wasn't clean enough prior to Donald Trump speaking. Remember, he appointed her to the Voice of America. Let's hear about yet another illegal appointment.
We have to get to. A Reagan-nominated federal judge in Washington has just ruled that Kari Lake, who oversees Voice of America, has been illegally serving as the chief executive of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, meaning many of the actions she took, including mass layoffs, are nullified. The judge found Lake violated the Constitution's appointments clause by leading the agency and has threatened on multiple occasions to hold Lake in contempt for not cooperating with his orders. In a statement posted online, Lake said an activist judge was trying to stand in the way of President Trump's agenda.
Okay. Yet again, another unlawful action. We shall see what happens there. Now, guys, I think you deserve a little bit of crazy town. Okay? I think you do before we go. Now, this is one of the crazy towns. Maybe you want to vote. This is Jason made these, one of the amazing mods. Of course, let's thank Jason. Let's thank Deb. Let's thank AJ. So I need you to vote in the chat. So here's Crazy Town background music. Okay. Now I want you to hear the Crazy Town circus music. Okay. So first, your first choice, 1 was Crazy Town background. 2 is going to be Crazy Town circus. Let's go down some more. Okay. So again, you get to vote. What do you prefer? Crazy Town background? Okay, that's 1. Or do you like Crazy Town circus? Okay, you vote, and then I'll tell you the results tomorrow. But with no further ado, and by the way, someone criticized me, and I fucking blocked them. No further ado is further ado, A-D-O, ado. But someone thought I was trying to say, I don't know what, something in French, right? No, I wasn't. I don't speak French, so if I mispronounce something in French, fromage you, okay? Now, here we go. You're not going to effing believe it. This is a guy from DOGE. His name is Nate Kavanaugh. Remember how they were trying to cancel any contracts with the NEH, right? And they were these NEH grants. They were trying to cancel anything. This is National Endowment for the Humanities if it involved DEI. Do you remember that? Well, there is a huge New York Times article about DOGE. And what turns out is these guys, and I'm going to share this article. I'm giving you a gift link right here in the chat so you can look at it later. These guys don't know what DEI is. They just don't, which is, of course, stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a wonderful thing. I'm for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and everybody should be, because the opposite is kind of white supremacist fascism. So patriarchy. I didn't sign up for that shit. Okay, so let me share with you this. This is fucking crazy. Okay, so here's the headline. When DOGE unleashed Chat GPT on the humanities. Okay, guys? Yes, it's as bad as you think. Since they did not know what DEI was, they used Chat GPT to run grant proposals through. Here was the prompt for the chatbot. I kid you not. Does the following relate to DEI? And it said to respond in less than 120 characters. That was the prompt in the chatbot. And begin with yes or no. This is what they said. I'm quoting. It says, does the following relate at all to DEI? Respond factually in less than 120 characters. Begin with yes or no. That is the prompt. And according to the New York Times, the results were, as they said, sweeping and sometimes bizarre. So it is really crazy. They did not question the judgments that came out of ChatGPT. They created a list of 1,477 problematic awards, right? And decided to essentially claw back by canceling them more than $100 million, half of the agency's budget. Places had to shutter. Like, it is, I mean, just giving you one example, there was an effort, funding to digitize the papers of someone named Thomas Gage. He was a British general in the American Revolution. And they decided that these papers promoted inclusivity and diversity in historical research. This would be funny as hell if it weren't true. We need to wrest this government back from these dangerous, incurious, self-centered, racist, sexist, idiotic, rapist morons. That is my goal. And by wrest, I mean we need to impeach him before the flippin' midterms. And we need to pray that people get out and vote and that we can vote. Right now, the focus needs to be figuring out a plan for voting and doing everything we can to get Donald Trump out of office. A man who is credibly accused of raping a 13 to 15-year-old, who is tainted by the Epstein cover-up, who is waging an unlawful war, who was convicted on 34 felony counts, who doesn't remember where his father was born, who is in every way not suited to lead any country, let alone association, let alone even his own brain, should not be in office. And the fact that some people want to still prop him up shows you can never trust them again. And not only that, what kind of double fucking standard there is in this world. Can you imagine? If Barack Obama, if Joe Biden, if any Democrat did even one of these things? I don't know, guys. I don't know. But I still have a smile on my face because I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not an oncoming train. Okay, I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show, where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.